to another episode of the DC Comics Chronicles. As always, I'm your host, Adam. And with me is my co-host, Donnie. Donnie, how's it going?
What's up, DC fans? It's the man who teaches macaroni art at Arkham Asylum. It's the Emerald Enthusiast.
And he takes such good notes in preparation for these shows that I've taken to calling him Savak, because he's really the keeper of notes on for the Green Lantern Corps and the Guardians. So that's his new nickname.
Well, thank you very much. That is quite the compliment.
Right. So there you go. Thankfully, you look nothing like him, though. No facial resemblance. No.
Yeah, I'm not sure my wife would like that so much.
Yeah, I figured. I don't know if she'd like that look for you.
Yeah.
But as you can see, Donnie is in his man cave of Green Lantern paraphernalia, and I'm literally in the Bat cave because I'm the Bruce Wayne of this show. And notice Alfred is not here again. Supposedly he's upstairs in the manor making pancakes and cupcakes and having a big brunch. I've yet to see any of that. So, Alfred, if you come down here, with more of that cold soup, you're fired. But so make sure you proceed with caution. Unless you send Diana Prince down here, then we're good.
Give us some food, Poozer.
But in the meantime, while we're waiting
now I'm Kilowog and Salak.
You're Kilak? How would they? I'm on a roll here with these melding of names.
Just like Ray said, I am all the Jedi. I am all of the lanterns.
Yeah, indeed. So we're here with another episode, of course, of the DC Comics Chronicles. Donnie, usually we do a what you've been watching reading segment. We know what we've been reading because we're going to review those.
Right.
So the viewers and listeners will find out as we review them what we're reviewing. Well, we could tell them what we're reviewing, but
Sure.
So what's the books we'll be discussing today?
We will be discussing Batman number 106, Nightwing 78, Justice League 59, and what was the fourth one we had? Superman number 29, right. Okay.
So that's the reviews that you'll be hearing and we'll be talking about. But Donnie, before we get there, we've both watched Zack Snyder's Justice League, which is the hot topic in the DC universe in terms of internet conversation the last couple of days. Steven and I will be going in depth. We're actually recording tomorrow our vidcast and podcast on it. Donnie will be consumed with real life work, so he won't be able to join us given the time Donnie works and he has to get some sleep in. He's not a machine that can go without sleep.
Right.
So with that in mind, I wanted to give him an opportunity to give us his quick thoughts on Zack Snyder's Justice League. So Donnie, if you will, what did you think?
Well, I was very happy to see another version of this movie. Not that I completely dislike the first version, the theatrical release. Of course, we actually did a commentary on that. You can find that right here on YouTube. And I talk about the things that, there you go, shameless plug. Didn't take me long. But to see Zack Snyder be able to come back is something that I think he earned. We know why he didn't get to complete the project. And lost in all of the controversy surrounding the various personalities at DC, both actors and actresses behind the scene, all that, is the fact that, Zack Snyder had a daughter to die, and that's why he didn't get to finish this. And he actually put a tribute in the movie to her. There was a song that was a favorite song of hers.
Yes.
And my allegiance is not to any particular, director and actors and actresses, even though I have my favorites. I just always want to see the characters adapted more because these are characters that I have spent over 4 decades with. And as far as the theatrical release, it's no secret it was kind of rushed through and there were things that weren't finished. There were plot lines that could have been done a little bit better. This was Zack Snyder's vision. Now, I will say that the first half of it, I thought it didn't differ that much from the theatrical release. It was kind of Zack Snyder's lens that we saw it through. The conversations, the dialogue was Zack Snyder-esque, but the narrative wasn't that different. It just felt like a different angle on the same story. But about halfway through, things took a massive change, a huge pivot, and we saw kind of a very different story that fleshed out Steppenwolf a lot better, much more so than this. What did they say in the theatrical release? That he lived only to conquer. Well, we got a much greater, richer story this time
Agreed.
out.
Yeah, agreed.
And more importantly, we saw his relationship to Darkseid, which is a villain that we don't know at what point or if there will be a continuation of this universe. But it's nice to see one of the most important villains in DC history finally get the live action treatment.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. Zack did not cut my favorite scene, which was Superman post-resurrection. In fact, I thought he improved that for the most part. He did cut out my favorite line of dialogue from the theatrical release, which was Superman pulling Batman close and saying, "Do you bleed?" Echoing Batman versus Superman. I did like that. He cut that line out. But overall, everything just flowed better. It seemed like it was made by someone with a definitive vision. So, as far as negatives, I will say, and just forewarning, I want to point this out. People are going to say, "Yeah, you're just a tiresome super fan." Well, here we go. The only Green Lanterns we saw was Yalan Gur in the flashback, and one of the possible dystopian futures we saw a dead body. We saw the dead body of Kilowog.
Yeah.
We didn't see a Green Lantern in the active Justice League. Okay.
Right.
Now it seems to be that wasn't Zack Snyder's his preference, but with someone like myself who has been reading DC Comics for 40 years, it's not a Justice League without a Green Lantern. It's a character that has to be there. So, I'm not going to say that I would put Zack Snyder's Justice League in the top 5 or top 10, but did it make it a lot better? Yes. Is it now one of the top DC Extended Universe movies? Yes.
All right.
It was really beautiful, even if it wasn't perfect. And I really thought, the biggest thing that I wanted to see outside of maybe a Green Lantern being there was Superman's story being finished well without kind of the weird visuals and things like that. We saw the black solar suit. I really like that. I also like that he beat down Steppenwolf.
Oh, yeah.
And it made a great save and a great line of dialogue. Not impressed.
Yeah.
I really had a lot of fun watching this, all 4 hours of it. So definitely want to say thank you to Zack Snyder. Thank you to Warner Media for making this unusual project available to us. We talked about on the Marvel side of things how happy we were that in the pandemic era we had WandaVision. Well, it's very nice that in this pandemic era too, on the DC side of things, we had something like the Snyder Cut. So thank you to all involved.
Awesome. Well said. One last question on this front.
Mm-hmm.
And Donnie, we don't know what's going to happen next in terms of
Sure.
whether some of the epilogue scenes will be paid off. But if this is wildly successful for Warner Media and HBO Max, would you be on board with them restoring the Snyderverse on HBO Max?
I have said that I would be more excited about an announced sequel, a continuation of the DCEU, than I would be about the Snyder Cut itself. Now, again, I still think things are up in the air. You and I have talked about this a lot, that we think there's going to be a reboot of the Justice League. But does that mean that this might not have at least some short-term effects on projects? Maybe. Maybe so. A lot of people are reacting positively to this.
Right.
So.
And by that, what I mean is keep your plans that you have going forward with, your... Mm-hmm. They're opening up the multiverse with Flash.
Right.
So the cinematic side of the equation, we'll see, Flash, um, the supposed idea, according to the Hollywood Reporter, that Michael Keaton would assume the Batman of the theatrical movies, not Robert Pattinson's thing, but part of the shared cinematic.
Right, that seems to be an entity unto itself right now.
So keep that. Keep your Suicide Squad, your the Superman, J.J. Abrams Superman,
Black Adam.
Black Adam. Keep all that the way Shazam 2, Fear the Gods. Keep all that as is, right? But what I'm suggesting is strictly as an HBO Max Elseworlds set of things to have Zack Snyder finish off his take. If that was a thing, I would more than welcome it. And there's a lot of things that they got to figure out. But from a storytelling point of view, once you open up the multiverse, that's possible. So we'll see whether the logistical aspects of doing that can now work themselves out, provided again that this is a success numbers wise and does what HBO Max hoped that it would do. So we'll see. But I'd certainly be open to it if that was the case, and it sounds like you would be too.
Oh yes.
So, but we will wait and see. And if there's any news on that or any upcoming DC projects, of course, we will have you covered on the Multiverse Musings vidcast.
As well as the Multiverse Musings podcast network, where we cover many aspects of the DC universe for you.
Listen, 2 shameless plugs in 11 minutes. You're on a good track. I'm keeping 10. But, all right, so let's dive into the source material, the comics.
Let's jump into the action. So, full disclosure here, I read a lot of different comics. Usually with Batman, I usually trade sit. I wait for a while and get collected editions. But Adam harassed me and harangued me and pulled me in.
I said it's either you read Batman comics or the Anti-Life Equation is coming for you. Make a choice.
Again,
I'm not green in your room. We're gonna add a little bit of black and gray, Donnie.
So again, I'm not overly familiar with some of the very recent events of Batman, but I tried to get a handle on what we had here.
That Batman is Bruce Wayne, right? That's not a spoiler for you?
No, not a spoiler. No. And I do know about the future plans. Okay. I just had to ask you a little bit about the background just prior to this issue. Sure. So we know that Arkham has fallen, that there was a big explosion and a lot of people were killed. A lot of Batman's villains died in the fire.
Right. So the fire indeed rises. The fire rises.
Let's not stand on ceremony, Mr. Wayne. There you go. And actually, one of didn't Bane get killed in Infinite Frontier?
He's as of right now dead as a doornail.
Okay. Okay. So we see that Simon Saint is attempting to sell Gotham's mayor on a new group of peacekeepers to fight supervillains and other meta threats. And now my question is this the Magistrate that we're talking about?
It is. It's the starting point of the Magistrate that we saw in Future State.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I do like the art here, and wow, the opening image of Bruce tied to a chair with his eyes popped open, kind of clockwork orange style. That was pretty shocking. I mean, there's a lot of kind of grim imagery in this, which is fitting for Batman.
Right.
So, and last week, we talked about the new look for Scarecrow. I was actually a little confused. I thought this was, because he looked so different, I thought this was Simon Saint. Obviously, Those are two different characters, but I love this new look for Scarecrow. And like I said, I can't wait for McFarlane to do a figure of this.
Oh, that's gonna be
the detail is going to be awesome. So, yeah. And I like also, too, that we see post-Joker War, we see that Batman is still operating kind of in a different way. And one of the things he's done is that his current Batmobile...
More low tech.
Yeah, more low tech. And in fact, one of the things he's done is he's taken old parts of former Batmobiles and he's kind of fitted those into his current Batmobile to keep things running.
Yeah. So...
Yeah.
It's that whole scene, the kind of car chase where he was chasing, the thugs,
Mm-hmm.
that was pretty epic. And when you're a Batman artist, I would assume that one of the joys of taking on the character would be drawing the Batmobile.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And that is one beautiful Batmobile. I love it. It's got that. It's kind of like a homage to different live action Batmobiles that we've seen, a bunch of different ones.
Right. Yeah. Combination thereof.
If you look at it, yeah. Which I liked. Yeah. We get some interesting things happening, Donnie, with Oracle in this issue. So, anything you want to speak to regarding Oracle and her role? She's sort of.
Yeah, I really do like the way that she's drawn here, I've got to say. And so it's an interesting setup too. And they are chasing a group. What was that group that they were after?
Oh, they have a name too, don't they?
Yeah. And it's escaping me right at this second.
Yeah, let me see if I can.
But we see that Bruce is partnered up with Ghost Hunter in addition to Barbara.
Yes.
And yeah, it's really interesting. And you also talked about the kind of low tech way that Bruce is operating these days. We see that he's kind of moving from place to place, looking like he's operating out of kind of like a townhouse or like a garage of a townhouse or something like that. Yeah.
Which is pretty.
And yeah, it's really
cool.
It's really interesting. So.
And he even talks about having, bat caves, like mini bat caves throughout the city, which is kind of interesting. And harkens back kind of to like the 70s era of the comics, where he had, little mini bat caves in different places of Gotham, right? And I think it's.
Did I say Ghost Hunter? I meant Ghost. It's Ghost Maker, isn't it?
Ghost Maker. Yeah, Ghost Maker.
Ghost Maker. Yes. Yeah.
It's kind of cool to see Batman in this light, because he's taking it like he's got all the experiences of a Batman that's been doing this for decades, but he's taking it back to kind of like a year 1, 2 kind of era, and it's kind of fun to see a Batman with that experience now having to go more low tech and rely on that experience.
Yeah. And I like that he told Ghostmaker, okay, don't kill anybody. Yeah. And Ghostmaker was like, all right, I'll just maim him.
Yeah.
Batman was like, don't maim him either unless you have to. So.
Yeah, try not to, try and just rein him in and tie them up and leave it for the police. Basically, is Batman's kind of.
And I like the art choice here too. Whenever the villains are cursing, the profanity it's used, the bat symbols used.
That was very clever. I did like that. That was very, and it's funny because at some point I'm like counting the different bat symbols there are. So, okay, what word are they trying to use? So I'll count and then I'm like, all right, which word is that? And then I'll, as I'm reading, I'll repeat the word. I'm like, okay, I think it's this word. So let me try it. And does it work? Yeah.
So can you explain to me real quick? And I know this, but I'm guessing that you know this a little bit better. The Unsanity. Which is what? Yeah. Okay. So explain the Unsanity here.
Well, this is a new group that's popping up in Gotham, so I don't know much about them.
Okay. Well, no, they're talking about the Unsanity as in, I believe it's a kind of a new like philosophy.
Yeah.
That's why they're out there and that's why they're in Gotham is to sell this like new way of looking at things.
Yes. Yeah.
So
it's kind of like they're like a cult kind of.
Right.
Setup, but yeah, they're fairly brand new. In the Batman leading up to the Batman issues leading up to this, there really wasn't much about them. So this is all new territory here. So you're jumping in on the ground floor, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you know as much about them as I do at this stage.
Okay. Yeah, it was really interesting though. Like I said, I like the visuals on them, and. Yeah, watching Batman and Ghostmaker go after them, it was a very high-speed battle on this this kind of cruiser thing that I thought was just really interesting. And like I said, I like the art here. I like kind of the little details like like light flares and things like that you see in this, and some of these panels is really cool.
Jorge Jimenez is great.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of an interlude here, and there's a rooftop, and who do we see on the rooftop? You know what I'm talking about? A favorite of many DC fans. Has her own series right now. Has her own cartoon series, that is. That is Harley Quinn.
Harley Quinn, yeah, that's right. Well, I'm like, wait a minute, Catwoman. When you said rooftop, I'm like, is this a Catwoman joke? And I'm rifling through I'm thinking, wait a minute, yeah, we did see Harley, and she has kind of interesting thing you may not know about Harley. Throughout Joker War, she kind of sort of reluctantly teamed up with Batman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kind of bring down the Joker. So when she's talking about, them telling her to stay on the right path and be more of a hero, that's what she's kind of referring to.
Yeah.
I kind of dig this Harley because she's trying to fight her own instincts, and it's kind of adorable to watch her try and be, a hero.
Yeah.
Wrapped up in that insanity that is her life.
And I like that image of her kind of, looking over the scene with all the cop cars there, and she's obviously conflicted and she's sweating because she's been running and jumping, and she was like, how do all these hero types, afford things like grappling guns and motorcycles without robbing banks every other minute,
Well, that's why when you're Bruce Wayne, you don't run into that problem.
Right.
And it's funny because I think having her as part of sort of like an unwilling member of the of the Bat family is going to be really interesting to watch play out. And it's funny because as I read those scenes, I'm like, man, I would love to see Margot kind of play this version of Margot. Like actually working together with Batman, that would be.
Wait a minute, you were actually thinking about Margot Robbie? Nah.
Shocking, isn't it? I mean, it rarely happens. I mean, no, almost never. Who believes that? Is my nose growing?
Well, no. Now going back and seeing this now, this scene that Simon Saint is trying to sell, the Magistrate program, and it's a. It looks like, kind of at least partially robotic peacekeepers. Yeah. Kind of like mech suit peacekeepers.
Yeah, the suit is more mechanized, but they are human underneath the.
Okay.
Underneath the armor, and it's cool because it really is the foreshadowing of what we saw in Batman in Future State Batman stuff, which is, I mean, what I think will be the cool aspect now to watch play out is. How far will it get, or will our heroes be able to do things to prevent that future from taking hold?
Yeah.
Right? So...
Yeah, because obviously Batman is not... He's operating, under reduced circumstances. So...
Yes. And but it's certainly... Like I said, overall, I like the presence that I like the interplay between Batman and Ghostmaker.
Mm-hmm.
I like the presence of Oracle actually being in Batman's ear and being, doing sort of what Alfred had done for years, and what temporarily Lucius Fox had done during Joker War. But having Oracle be that person is good. And as much as I like Barbara Gordon Batgirl, I love her as Oracle. So I'm glad she's in that role.
Mm-hmm.
Again, and seeing Harley involved in all this and how she's going to work as a member of the Bat family is going to be a lot of fun. That's where a lot of the humor and levity is probably going to come from, I would guess. And what about that ending? Two things with that ending. The news report of people not wanting to live in, they're getting public opinion on wanting to live in Gotham, and everybody's like, "Are you kidding?" That to quote Aquaman in Justice League, that shithole, and that's echoed by the news reports. Is people like, "I wouldn't, you pay me $1 million, I
Yeah, nobody wants to go there.
I personally live there because A, I'm the Bruce Wayne of this podcast network, but B, as the Joker says, if you gotta go with a smile. And if I'm kidnapped by Catwoman or Harley Quinn, and that's the way I gotta go, sign me up. But but that's me. And besides, where would Steven make my coffee? But in Gotham City.
Speaking of drinks, I like the visual of Batman and Ghostmaker, like back in the little like
the Bat Bunker.
The Bat Bunker that and Ghostmaker's like, you're really gonna have to learn to clean up after yourself, and there's like cans all over the place, and we see the Batman's a slob.
See, this is what I have to go through. It's like I have Alfred, but he's not. I got to clean up after myself. What kind of gig is this? But no, it's and so there was that scene on the TV, the newscast made me chuckle because that's the opinion that most people would have of Gotham. Like I can't see too many people, uprooting their life and moving there. But also the ending where you have the mayor watching the news, and stalking behind him is the Scarecrow lurking in the shadows.
Yeah.
That was a great way to cap off the issue, I thought. Did you want to briefly talk about the backup Robin story?
Yeah, we can. Actually, I actually really like that. And full admission, I'm really not a fan of Damian Wayne, but I actually did like this story.
I gotta admit, I wasn't at the beginning. Like I thought, oh, this kid's a little SOB. No offense to Talia, but he's grown on me over the years. And he's gone through some things where he's at odds with his father and the Bat family, and basically the way he would handle criminals while he was the leader of the self-appointed leader of the Teen Titans didn't sit well with his father or his other teammates or the rest of the Bat family, and it kind of set him off at odds with his father. And Alfred being killed, and sort of Damian blaming Bruce and the way he handles his villains didn't help matters between the two. So he's gone back to Talia and kind of demanded that he rightfully take his place at the head of the League of Shadows.
Yeah.
Because Damian, at first he was dead set on, I'm going to be the next Batman because I'm his son, and when that didn't work out, well, I'm going to be the leader of the League of Assassins because I'm the grandson.
Yeah.
Just the way, but so he's growing on me, and like you said, he's kind of growing on you because you like the story, but he still maintains that prick attitude because the way he talks to his mother, like if I had talked to my mother like that at 11, 12, 13 years old, I would have got slap upside the head, and that would have been the end of the story. But he is put in a situation where his mother is attacked and held at knife point, and then we see a black screen and somebody is stabbed.
Right. Well, so, the scene opens up with it's Talia she's in Markovia and she's having some tea, and he kind of
so that's who Alfred's making tea for. No.
And so Damian kind of makes his way to her by like overpowering her guards.
Yes.
Yeah. And then we see that, they're having the conversation like what you were talking about his past. And then they're attacked by another group. Now, what was the name of this group?
I'm trying to remember. Was it not
I think they're a new group. The League of Lazarus. That's what they're called. Yes. Yeah.
Maybe it's an offshoot of the League of Shadows.
Yeah, very.
Maybe the group is splintered. You know what I mean?
Yeah, very interesting visuals. I really liked how it reminded me a little bit. And again, sorry, this is where I'm going to go with my parallels. When Lisa Drack had the book of the Sinestro's the oath.
Yeah.
Tattooed onto her skin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so. Yeah. Back out of the Green Lantern universe, back to where we're doing.
No, listen, that's your home base. It's nothing wrong with it.
That's my wheelhouse. So so the League of Lazarus and they show up and they say you must be tested, and Damian and Talia fight against them. But we see at the end that one of them catches Talia and holds her at knife point, and she says, "Kill him now."
Yeah.
And the image and he hesitates, meaning Damien.
Yeah.
He hesitates a little bit, and then, like you say, there's an image of blood kind of cut across a black backdrop, and it says to be continued in Detective Comics number 1034.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that works out.
So did the question now becomes, did Damien do the deed? Is Talia dead, or did Talia gain the upper hand and then kill her attacker? These are all things we'll have to wait until Detective 1034 to find out. But it's an interesting cliffhanger to end on for sure.
Yes.
And really to see where Damien's at. Has he devolved back to a killer, or has his father's teachings stuck with him? We'll wait and see. But Donnie, being your first single issue Batman story in a while, how would you rank this one? How would you rate this one?
It's a good jumping on point. I didn't feel like. Now, again, I read Batman on a regular basis, but I usually wait until a little bit of time passes. I didn't feel like there was so much backstory that I couldn't follow what was going on.
Yeah.
Like I said, I had a few questions, but overall the narrative was really good, and it was still familiar in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So what would be your grade for this?
As far as the art, I'm going to give the art 4.5, and I'm going to give the story itself probably 4.5 as well.
Yeah. For me, I think as a longtime reader, I think it's a great jumping off point for new readers, like you alluded to. As a longtime reader, it's a great just continuation. The next evolution of the title. I'm intrigued to see Scarecrow and him being used more. I think he's underused in comic books.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be good to see him there. I want to see where the magistrate, how that thing unfolds. And again, if it ultimately continues to develop into what we saw in Future State, or if something like that's preventable. And I'm intrigued by the Damien story. So I want to see that unfold as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, for the writing, the story, I'll give it a 4.5. For the art, I really, really like Jorge Jimenez. His Scarecrow redesign is epically creepy.
Yeah.
And his Batmobile hit me in all the right areas, gave me the feels. So I'm gonna give it a 5 for the art.
All right.
All right. What's next, sir?
What it is next is Superman number 29.
Indeed.
Yes. And this seems to be hinting at there's been a lot of chatter online, and probably some of the DC releases have hinted at, we know that Jonathan is going to take over for Superman because in
Future State, yeah.
In Future State, yes. And there's seems to be the suggestion here that Superman may die. And this issue opens up with John and Superman fighting some alien creatures that, when I first looked at the cover of this, I thought, oh, those might be constructs. But did they ever name these
everything
creatures?
Everything is that's green. That is like, is that a contract?
Sue me, that's how I think.
Donnie sees a green mailbox as he's walking down the street. Is that a contract? Is that a
construct?
Where's Kyle? I know he's around here somewhere.
Exactly.
I love it.
Yeah.
But these are a new entity. I think the first time we saw them was in Infinite Frontier, number 0. I think that was the first kind of tease at those. Again, brand new, but the breach that they come through, and their aura, I guess, if you want to say, we learned that it does have an effect on Superman. And
right. Are they kind of do they have like a kryptonite energy signature? Is that why
They,
they're green?
they haven't specified.
Okay.
Again, the beauty of Infinite Frontier is that it does continue certain aspects of what we were reading before, but it really is at the same time a fresh start with new concepts being introduced. So that's something that I'm in the same boat that you are. I have no idea.
Right.
You'd assume that there would be some kryptonite aspect,
Yeah.
but we could be entirely wrong on that.
But I do like the narrative here. It talks about, it's told from Jonathan's perspective, that he talks about the golden age when every kid knows their parents are indestructible.
Yeah.
And indestructible and infallible. And you see them continue to fight these creatures, but Superman actually does get wounded in this.
Yeah.
And as time goes on, you see that Jonathan starts to question about whether his father is going to die.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I mean, yeah, you're a father, so that probably hit differently for you as you were reading it. I would imagine. I mean,
oh yeah.
For me, I get his point of view. I mean, my parents aren't Superman, but when you're a kid, you do think, okay, I mean, they're gonna be here forever. They're indestructible. And then as you get older, you see them get older, and it's certainly it rattles you. It changes your perspective. So it's an emotion that no matter what side of the fence you're on, whether you're the parent or the child, you can certainly relate to, and it does hit strongly, I think.
Well, later on we see the Clark family, the Kent family gather together, and it says again, it's being told from Jonathan's point of view. The golden age is a wonderful thing, but it doesn't last forever.
Yeah.
And so like I said, honestly, I mean, I'm kind of a sucker for Superman stories. I really like, especially the cosmic Superman stories. And I liked, the visuals here. This is not necessarily my favorite art style as far as the kind of angular. Yeah. But again, you see Jonathan starts to see, kind of the flaws in his father. Even though he's Superman, he sees that there are some vulnerabilities there, both, I guess, physically and whatever you want to call it, philosophically, that he is still, a biological creature. He's not a god, despite the fact that, sometimes he's spoken of in those terms.
Sure, yeah. And it's funny because he even eventually, once they've seemingly closed the breach and vanquished the creature, Clark wants to, take a detour and play an old game that Jonathan invented.
Mm-hmm.
And Jonathan's like, I'm not really feeling it. And along the way home, they have this conversation where Jonathan opens up to what he's feeling. And he says, look, when I was in the future with the Legion of Superheroes, I heard all these stories about you, and people would look at me like I was you and expect me to take over the job of Superman. He goes, but you're Superman. It's not a thing that can just be passed on. Almost Jonathan saying, I don't want that responsibility, because once I assume that responsibility, that means you're no longer here.
Right.
So that's the vibe he was giving off. And that's when he opens up. He's like, if those things come back, you can't go. You can't help stop them, because I've seen you. That's when you die.
Right. And you talk about a father's perspective, and I read that looking at, Superman says after that battle, let's not go home yet. Let's play this game.
Yeah.
He was trying to assuage the angst that was obviously radiating from Jonathan.
Yeah. So again, I mean, yes, there's what I like about this issue is it's got that sci-fi aspect to it, because we're dealing with two, a Kryptonian alien and a half human, half Kryptonian, and creatures on. So there's going to be the sci-fi element, but I think there's the balance of the sci-fi with the human emotional element is what makes this issue so good.
Right.
I think.
And I gotta say, I think my favorite line in this though was when they were looking at the Pinecone game, and Jonathan said, "Yeah, playing this game was a long time ago," and Clark says, "Not for your mom and me. It's a difference in perception of time. Whereas, growing up from the elementary school years and the teen years, for somebody going through it, it may seem like a very long time. For the parents, it may seem like it happens overnight."
Yeah,
I know I have felt that way with my kids.
Yeah, so. and that's what I'm saying. You reading it as a parent, certain things hit differently for you than they do me. But at the same token, I just look at my nephew and nieces and see how quickly they've grown, and it's like, just yesterday it feels like I was helping put you to sleep when we were babysitting you. You were resting on my arm, making my arm numb because your head is. I tell my nephew this all the time. Your head was so heavy and big that you made my arm go numb. And now you're 13-year-old, punk in a loving way that thinks he knows everything, and it's like,
right.
So I could definitely see kind of both sides of it. And again, I think the strength of this issue is the balance between the superhero sci-fi stuff and the human emotion.
Yeah.
There was a backup, and I got to be honest, I wasn't too keen on it. I mean, Bibbo is a cool side character, but I don't know that I need to see the daily ongoing adventures of Bibbo, if that makes any sense.
I did think it was interesting, but it was only a few pages.
Yeah.
I should say this, though. The main story ends up with one of those creatures does make it back through the breach.
Right. Yeah.
And it says, and forebodingly, next, the fall. So you got to wonder, is that, are they getting ready to kill Superman yet again?
Well, I mean, the preview solicitations suggest otherwise, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean,
depowering him in some way. So
maybe he'll lose some, or temporarily lose some powers, but yeah. I can't see them actually going full bore and killing him. But we'll have to wait and see. But next issue is going to be interesting. And this story continues in Action Comics. I can't remember the exact number, but
I will say this: the story Tales of Metropolis, the Sami Bazari, Basri. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name. The artist on this I really did like the art in this.
Oh, the art was fantastic. To me, I don't necessarily need a fill-in backstory for characters like Bibbo.
Right.
Like, I don't need to see their continuing adventures.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, again, it was very short, and we see a villain called Deadstream. Mm-hmm. Bibbo takes a date to the movies, and this guy is acting kind of very chauvinistic toward her, and he gets in a fight, and then the guy turns out to be a thing called Deadstream.
Yeah.
So
poor Bibbo is not even dating a real woman.
Right. Yeah. She turns out to be Smoke. So it's an interesting story, even if not very long. So
yeah, I mean, it's interesting, but I don't know. I don't know if it'll hold my interest long enough to I'll say this. Thankfully, it's happening in a backup feature, and not. I'm glad they didn't put out a number one of the Adventures of Bibbo, because I don't know that would sell well, personally. But
it ends with Bibbo's a writer now, and he's typing in his apartment, and it ends with the villain saying, "It's time to see what Bibbo, Olsen, and this city are made of."
Yeah, I think each back issue is going to focus on a different person in Metropolis.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. I do like the image of Bibbo in his apartment, and you see one of the things that's most prominently displayed is him shaking hands with Superman.
Yeah.
Because that's always been a big character trait.
Yeah, that would be. I could see Steven having something like that in his house. Maybe I should call him Bibbo on the Superman side of things. Interesting. We'll see. I know he gets offended when I call him Jimmy, so maybe Bibbo. I'm not calling you Clark, so you can get that out of your head there, Steven. I know that's what you want, but you're not getting it.
I still can't call when they call him James Olsen on Supergirl. I just can't wrap my mind around James.
I can't. I'm sorry.
It's Jimmy. It's Jimmy.
No, no offense to the actor, but it's just to me, it's not Jimmy. There's something missing in that portrayal. And again, I think it's more writing than.
I like that portrayal. It's very different, but
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want to get off on a tangent here. I actually wanted Supergirl with him. I thought that made the most sense.
Oh yeah, if you're gonna have to give me a relationship, that's one of the ones I'd want to see. But hey, there are shippers out there that want Supergirl with Lena, even though it makes no thematic storytelling sense. But I digress. That's neither here nor there. So.
Whatever they do relationship-wise, it couldn't be any worse than her and Mon-El together. I really don't see that.
Even though they ended up together in real life, but
in real life,
I get what you're saying.
That's ironic, and I like Mon-El in the comics. I just don't particularly like him on the show. But anyway, I digress.
That's fair. I agree with that.
What did you think of the episode? How would you rate the comic?
Well, story, like I said, because it hit a good balance between sci-fi and human emotion, I'm going to give it a full 5.
Likewise.
Art-wise, the art was good, but it's not my cup of tea.
Likewise.
So for that respect, 3.5.
That's actually what I wanted to say too. Was about 3.5. Again, there are people who like that type of art, and I'm not saying there's necessarily anything wrong with it, but it's not my cup of tea.
I'm not disparaging Phil Hester as an artist. I can't draw, so for me to criticize anybody that can and earns money for doing so would be a disservice. I'm just saying, for me, it's not my particular favorite style. That's all.
Right. It's that kind of angular animated type of style. It's not my favorite. I prefer more realistic or hyper-realistic art to that.
Donnie, we live in. I just want to tell our viewers and listeners that we live in a society.
We live in a society, Batman.
Yeah, where I can not like an art style, but appreciate that artist's talent, and that's what I've just done.
I was thinking about when I was thinking about my notes for this, I was thinking about you saying that, yes, that not everything needs to be the greatest or the worst. There are a lot of shades of gray in the middle. So,
yeah, indeed. All right, so there we go. That's that one. What's next?
All right. So how about we pop onto Nightwing?
Mm-hmm.
And, okay, full disclosure here. I'm not a huge fan of Robins when they are young sidekicks to Batman. And so I don't routinely read Robin comics. But when I read this as a fully formed adult, as Dick Grayson is, this was my favorite of the 4 that I read. I thought this was a really, really strong comic.
Yeah. Before we get into some details, to me, this was the book of the bunch. They were all good. I liked them all. Again, just because I said I enjoyed them all, so let's not get upset.
Right.
What I'm saying is, this one stole the show. It was a scene stealer in that sense of the word. I just blown away. And there's so much in this book. Like, we get backstory. We get to see the first meeting of Barbara and Dick.
Right. And oh man, what an amazing scene that was.
I don't know what their ship. What is their? Look, I'm not a shipper, but what is their ship, folks? In the comments, in the tweets, whatever, however you want. What is the ship name for Barbara and Dick?
Yeah, Brick. Help us out, young people.
I'm not going to say what I was thinking because we may get stricken with an R-rating in our program, so I'm not going to go where I was thinking. But I don't know what it is, so tell me what it is. But, I just love that, they both came to somebody who was being bullied.
Yeah.
I just mangled my words. They both came to the defense of somebody that was being bullied. And I love that because
as young people, we want to say here, again, this is a flashback.
Yeah, this is pre-Batman taking them out in Gotham City and exposing them to the crazies of that world. And I love that because it proves that even without their costume and their training, they were heroic, good-natured young people. And I like that. And that guy the bully that they kind of double teamed.
Yeah, his name was Shelton Lyle.
Shelton was the biggest douchebag of the highest order. Truly.
She refers. Barbara calls him where perfect teeth meet privilege.
Yeah, that's a good. So, and I like how he's like, oh, my father's so well to do. He owns the police. And she's like, really? Who do you think? What
do you think about that, Dad?
That was great. Like, that's the perfect way to use nepotism, if I've ever seen it before. And just to stick with the flashback for a second.
Yeah.
The conversation between Alfred and Dick, because at this point, Dick has already been adopted by Bruce and is already Robin, per se. And Dick knows that, Bruce is going to be pissed off that I got brought back here by the police. But he wasn't home, thankfully, for Dick. And so Dick starts to go and wash the dishes. And Alfred,
I like that scene because you see a glimpse into Dick Grayson's psychology. He still feels like he has to earn his place, like he has to earn people's affection.
Yeah. And Alfred tells him that, look, never mind what Bruce would think. I just want you to know that I'm proud that you stood up and defended somebody, and you proved that to be a hero, you don't have to wear a costume.
Yeah.
That exchange was so great. And also for you, Stephen, because this is, just as a side. When Alfred sees Dick doing the dishes, he says, that's my job.
That's my job, yeah.
With no attitude, no snark. Take a page from your comic book counterpart, Stephen. I've seen the gifts you use. I don't like the attitude. I just want to where are my pancakes? It's Saturday. I've yet to have pancakes.
I haven't had a muffin yet today either. So.
I know. See what I mean? But in present day, we get a little bit of John Wick action happening here.
We see a parallel between the original, the flashback, and this scene, which is some bullies chasing and tormenting a little puppy, and Nightwing takes issue with that.
Yeah, they literally kicked the puppy.
Yeah.
Which, look, I'm not the hugest dog lover in the world, but even I get disturbed when I see somebody kicking a puppy.
Well, yeah, and they were going to shoot the puppy too. I mean, come on now.
Yeah, who pissed you off in your life that you're that deprived of any common decency?
And I'm just realizing too that it looks like the dog only has 3 legs.
Yeah, it's a very.
Oh my gosh.
It's an unfortunate animal, and so Dick sort of saves the puppy and disposes of the thugs, but in the preamble where he gives them the banter, the typical Nightwing, Dick Grayson banter, and he says you should take up a different hobby. And he mentions ice skating, to which I had a terrible flashback, Donnie, because the thought of Dick Grayson on skates brings back that hockey scene in Batman and Robin at the museum.
Oh my goodness.
That movie really not only did it bastardize my favorite comic characters, or one set of my favorite comic characters, but it also disparaged my favorite sport in the entire world. And I really have a lot of bad memories from that movie. And I told Tom Taylor that on Twitter. I said, great issue, but really, you caused some problems for me mentally because I get flashbacks. Terrible.
Right.
Our
hockey team probably has set us in that mindset right now too.
Yeah, and it wasn't a good thing to read after the Leafs just laid a stink bomb. But anyway, so Nightwing, takes the dog. The dog bites him because
the dog's a little anxious, so he bites him. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they go to the doctor, and Dick goes to the doctor. The dog goes to the vet, and the next thing you see Dick in plainclothes attire walking back home with the dog, and he sees somebody in his apartment. So somehow he leaps into his window as Nightwing. I guess he must have the costume under his clothes. He must have a Clark Kent deal happening there, because otherwise, how fast do you change? And then he gets basically thrown in wrestling style, a wrestling style hip toss by Barbara.
By Barbara,
Yeah,
yes. Yeah.
who is there to do two things: criticize his security, as Nightwing says. What are you here to criticize my security? And there's a lot of banter there about, if you're gonna be Nightwing out of your apartment, you should invest in better security. And then she's there to read a part of the will, and give him a letter from Alfred Pennyworth.
Right.
And
I would be remiss. I do want to say that there's a scene before this where we see the villain Blockbuster.
Yeah, I was going to get to that.
Kill the mayor of Bloodhaven. So
yeah, now Blockbuster has a past with Nightwing, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So there's history there, and basically, Blockbuster is essentially the DC universe or the Nightwing universe version of Kingpin, kind of sort of deal.
Yeah.
And so he kills the mayor of Bloodhaven, as you suggested, in a quite gruesome way. He had that grabbing his face kind of deal, like.
Yeah, he's a huge villain, so he kind of just
Andre
grabs his face and crushes his skull.
He does an Andre the Giant / Big Show kind of maneuver, and then he appoints his own mayor.
Yeah, that's Melinda Zuko,
which has ties to the man that had Dick Grayson's parents killed. So that's going to be an interesting development.
Yeah.
To see how Dick Grayson's past comes back to haunt him, and how does he handle that? Because that's going to stir up certainly some emotions. Now you gotta understand, Dick Grayson seems like a relatively well-adjusted person who's moved forward in his life. I mean, I'm sure he still misses his parents.
Yeah.
And still hates, how they died. But he's seemingly well-adjusted enough to move past that.
Yes. He's not as tortured about it as Bruce is.
Right.
Yeah.
So now with a descendant of Zuko, of Tony, being the mayor of his city, how's that going to affect him? That's going to be really interesting to watch play out.
Yeah, I am definitely happy to be reading this now. So
right. Now,
I can't wait for the next issue. So
now, Donnie, just because we got to touch on it, as Dick is reading the letter from Alfred, I mean, the general takeaway is Alfred's left him some money because Alfred is apparently a millionaire.
Yeah, evidently that's been a big secret, is that Alfred is a millionaire or billionaire, whatever it was, in secret. So,
and he's left a bunch of his money to Dick.
Yeah.
But as Dick is reading the letter, and Alfred's words are basically telling him how proud he is and how honored he was to consider Dick his son. And, you see from the art, Dick has tears in his eyes. Barbara has tears in her eyes. God damn it, Donnie, I was getting tears when I was reading it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I'm like,
it was emotional.
I was like, damn you, Tom Taylor and Bruno Ronaldo, the artist. You guys are making me damn cry. And,
Yeah, well, he knows how to evoke emotion now, doesn't he?
I mean, what a powerful... And again, that is, to me, that is the beautiful synergy of great writing and a fantastic artist. Because they really brought that emotion out of me. And really sold that emotion. So...
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the lines that says, "Whatever you choose to do, please know that I am exceedingly proud of you.
Yeah.
I'm very proud to call you my son."
Yeah. Just amazing. So,
and it actually says too, because I believe in Dick Grayson. Now, how amazing is that line? I believe in Dick Grayson.
It's great. And like I said, the writing and the art in this story was great. It is I got to be honest with you, I wasn't a fan of this book when he was Rick Grayson and with a shaved head and didn't remember his... Like, that was a slug to get through that period of the book. but man, is this a breath of fresh air. Uh, as a long-time reader of Nightwing, you know, the callback to what's the guy's name?
What Blockbuster Zuko?
Yeah, Blockbuster,
Yeah.
Zuko.
Yeah.
Those kind of callbacks are great for long-time readers. But as a newer reader to Nightwing, Donnie, do you think it's a good jumping-on point?
Very much so. Like I said, you know, I'm familiar with Nightwing. I don't read a lot of solo comics.
Yeah.
Definitely with Robins, but I've read Nightwing before. But to jump back on here, I felt like there's a lot that was familiar here to me. But at the same time, it's different enough to be enticing to say, okay, this is where we're going. It's something new. So
Yeah.
I also need to call out, I really laughed out loud at the panel where Nightwing shows Barbara the dog. And
yeah. And it's got that heart, yeah.
Yeah, it's got that heart with the exclamation point.
Yeah, but let's be honest. That's the perfect encapsulation. Because every time a woman sees a puppy, it's the end of the world. Like that's all that matters. Everything else.
I said that exact same thing to my wife about her dog. I'm like, this is probably how you looked when you saw your dog the first time. So
yeah. So, I mean, we kind of my favorite. Every image in this book was great.
Oh yeah.
But that image of Nightwing, you know, jumping across rooftops and the whole cityscape behind them, that was just that was perfection. The splash page there was great.
I have to ask because she doesn't identify herself. The last scene that we see here is Melinda goes into an apartment. Now, is this her bodyguard or her girlfriend or something? There's a woman there with a shaved head, and she's having a conversation with her.
I'm not sure who that is. I would assume it's her bodyguard, but I'm not 100% familiar, so I don't know.
Okay.
But I'm assuming we'll find out. It could work as either, though. You're right. It could work as a bodyguard girlfriend. Right.
Yeah.
But we kind of spoiled what our rating would be for this, but because we said it was the best of the bunch. But how would you rate this story and art?
I got to go 5 and 5. In particular for the story. The story was just outstanding. I love seeing that flashback scene and how it was paralleled with the modern day scene.
Agreed. Yeah, to me, like I said, of the 4 comics we're reviewing today, I like them all, but this for me was the pick of the litter, the best of the bunch, and it gets a 5 for the story and a 5 for the art.
5 for the art. The cream of the crop.
Yeah. Very macho man. We can cut a macho man, bro. So, Tom Taylor, Bruno Ronaldo, you guys, everybody involved, everybody in the creative team involved, pat yourself on the back like Mr. Perfect, take a bow, and keep up the great work because we're along for the ride. All right. Let's end.
And Mr. Perfect, it was Barry Horowitz that did that all the time, right?
Yeah, but Mr. Perfect did that too.
He did that too, sure.
He did the spinning of the gum. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
He did the gum.
I actually had a friend
I
had a friend try to do the gum thing in high school one time in the cafeteria. It didn't end well.
No, I can imagine. Yeah.
He ended up having to pull it out of this girl's hair. Don't do that. That's why they tell you don't try this stuff at home.
I'm sure she was thrilled by all that. Did they end up together, or were they dating?
Oh, I don't remember who it was. High school was a long time ago. If you couldn't tell by the gray in the beard, so.
I thought that was an aesthetic choice, Danny, not age.
Oh, sure, right.
All right, let's finish the show with the Justice League. We started with your review of the film. Now let's end with our review of the comics. So let's go.
Yeah, I like it. So this was it Justice League 59?
Yes.
And I will say this, there's been a lot of events that have happened lately. There's, Death Metal, Future State, Endless Winter, and I will
the
say
events seem endless.
To varying degrees, I liked all of those, but I do think maybe DC needs to slow down, at least with the Justice League right now, until some at least stories more in continuity. So
they are doing Infinite Frontier. We're getting that.
Right. Yeah.
It seems like that's something that they're building to. So.
Right. So. And I like the opening dialogue here. It's really powerful. It says when regular people, see us, they see icons, they see symbols. You know, we just talked about that with Superman, of people seeing, you know, Jonathan as a young child seeing his dad as, you know, understanding that some people see him as a god, but he sees him as a dad, and then eventually sees him as still a biological creature with flaws.
Yeah.
And this talks about how, you know, we're up there all the way all the time, but I think that's just why the Justice League doesn't always work.
Right.
And I think that's why I like Clark revealing himself as Superman. People like him more now. And because, you know, he's humanized himself.
Yeah.
So,
no,
and,
it's
I
a great
like
bit
that.
Of dialogue. Yeah,
a great bit of dialogue there. Now, the scene cuts to Kahndaq.
Because think about it, Donnie, just before you cut away.
Sure, go ahead.
As a reader, when we see these characters, we relate to those symbols. Like the Superman logo, the Batman logo, the Wonder Woman logo. These symbols are known worldwide. I mean, even if you don't read a comic, you flash, no pun intended, any of those 2 or 3 symbols to somebody's face without any title card on it, they'll tell you exactly who it is.
Right.
You know, with no edge. I'm talking just the symbol, not obviously not the full character design. Just the symbol.
Yeah, even the Flash.
So and when we read them, we think about the epic, grand scale, you know, characters that they are. We don't always think of them as, okay, well, like when you read a Superman story, you're not thinking, oh, I can't wait to see what Clark Kent's writing this week, or I wonder what restaurant Bruce Wayne ate at, you know, last night. Like you want to see what's Batman up to, who's Superman battling. So that line of dialogue is completely 100% true.
Yeah, and like I said, I like that idea because we just got that kind of perspective from the Superman comic of you know Clark being kind of humanized, and Jonathan seeing him as you know again as a biological entity, as a flawed, you know, even though he's Kryptonian, kind of as a human being. So yeah. So anyway, the scene cuts to Kahndaq, and we see a little boy who is visiting his mother's grave. And then Black Adam comes along, who is drawn very well, by the way.
Oh, I loved it. Yeah.
And he's saying that he is visiting, what was it, the grave of his wife?
No, Black Adam, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And, so that was really interesting. And as Black Adam is having a dialogue with this kid, we see a villain show up and attacks right away. What's the name of that villain again?
Is it Brutus, I think it was?
Yeah. Really interesting looking character. It kind of reminded me of
Steppenwolf and Zack Snyder.
Yeah, but like I said, I really like this. And he's he had some kind of witty banter going back and forth. Like he wasn't joking, but some of the things that he was saying to like Black Adam, that's some power level you're flexing, he said.
yeah, they had that smart ass. It wasn't joking, but they had that smart ass attitude to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and so then the Justice League shows up, and we see Hawkwoman and Superman and Batman and Aquaman.
Yes.
Yeah, and he says right here, call me Brutus. I'll keep this simple. All of this is mine now. And Superman's like, yeah, okay, whatever. And Superman just wallops him and knocks him for a few
But I
miles.
like how Superman's like, friend, this is not, Superman at first tries to talk to him. Batman's like, yeah, none of that shit. None of that, you know what? Tell us why you're here. Like, Superman at first tries to massage the issue and get the guy, sort of relax and open up. Batman's just like, no, get to the point. Why are you here? What do you want? And then they just, I liked how the whole action sequence is the Justice League taking turns in the spotlight wailing on this guy. Just laying waste to him. And Aquaman's line of dialogue was funny. He's like, anybody that can toss Black Adam around, I'm not taking any chances with.
Right, and the way he deals with Brutus is very interesting because he basically sets up a big like kind of a wave that's a wall of sharks.
Yeah,
So now that you're having a bad day there.
Oh, absolutely. And then the interesting thing is, Hawk. Are we calling her Hawk Woman or Hawk Girl? How was she referred to?
I can't remember which way she was referred to in this comic.
Right,
So.
but either way, her mace has an interesting reaction when it hits him.
Yeah, it does, and that's a big story point here. She says, "Batman, I need backup. Something is wrong because it's interacting with Brutus."
Yeah.
So now that seems to be a part. Brutus shows up here. That seems to be a larger story. Is there something that preceded this?
I've never seen Brutus before, so this is going to be and I like the fact that when he sees that he's getting overwhelmed, he retreats. He's like, "I'll be back."
Yeah.
And even Batman's like, "Yeah, this guy's going to be back."
Yeah.
We need to prepare. He's going to be back. And that's where we go to the Hall of Justice. And we catch up on the dialogue that started the issue, which is a conversation with the team with Green Arrow and Black Canary.
Mm-hmm.
And Flash is also there, Barry Allen.
Yeah.
And
I like Brutus's line of dialogue here. He tells Black Adam, he goes, "You know what? I was clearly ill prepared for this. I see that now."
Yeah.
Pause.
Yeah, and I like how also Black Adam's like, "All right, we're done here. See ya." And he looks at the Justice League, and Aquaman's like, "Did he just kick us out?"
Yeah.
He's like, "Me, I understand, but Superman, who kicks Superman out?"
Yeah, who kicked Superman out? Yeah, now what you're talking about there, back at the Justice League headquarters,
the Hall of Justice.
The Hall of Justice, right? They are looking at the mace to try to see if there was like any changes or anything, why it was reacting that way to Brutus. And they have an interesting conversation because they talk about how they've been around one another so long that maybe there's not enough difference of opinion. They've learned to kind of synchronize the way they think. And Green Arrow suggests that maybe we need people who are going to challenge us.
Yeah.
Maybe we've all been together too long.
Which is where Black Adam's going to come into play. Where eventually Hippolyta will come into play. And also, this is a big story point. In their analysis of the mace, they discovered that the creature, the energy that he emits is from a different world, different universe.
Mm-hmm.
And then it cuts. Then they start talking about Naomi McDuffie, and it cuts to a scene with her,
who's a great character, by the way. I can't wait to see her in live action. Yeah,
with her displaying her powers to her friends,
mm-hmm.
and then recording it. I'm assuming uploading it to YouTube or the DC. Where those three people should be listening to our podcast as they're doing all this. And then as she's in the midst of that, you have Black Adam hovering above her, saying a word.
Yeah, he goes, Naomi McDuffie, a word?
Yeah. And when that guy says a word, I'd be like, I ain't going to say no to you.
Yeah, sure.
Sure, what do you want to talk about?
Whatever you say.
What do you say? Okay. And it's funny because now that I know The Rock is playing him, I'm just thinking, I can picture The Rock in a scene like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm so intrigued about like Naomi joining the team. Based off their interactions, it's gonna be fun to have Black Adam on this team. And
I think we saw that when we did Endless Winter, the kind of things that he can create chaos.
And I can't wait to see Hippolyta because she brings a different level of two things: badassery than Wonder Woman, and also experience. It's a different dynamic than Wonder Woman. I mean, Wonder Woman's great, but it's going to be a different dynamic with her. So the dynamics and the banter was great. The action was great. I think, first of all, when he's at his peak, Brian Michael Bendis is great at delivering team banter, and it was on display
Yeah,
here.
definitely. Yeah.
And David Marquez on art. That entire fight scene was just a pleasure to look at. Um, and the other favorite piece of art that I have is the scene where he's hovering over Naomi, like above Naomi. That was great.
Yeah.
Uh,
I like that perspective that they use there. Yeah.
so I'm 100% on board with this new direction. Um, before we do our rating, you want to touch briefly on the backup story, which is just
yeah. The backup story is Merlin returning to Caledonia, and we see that he interacts with a servant who is guarding. What was she guarding again? Her name was Sarah. Go ahead.
Yeah, her name was weird, but she was guarding what looked like the King Arthur's sword.
Right. Excalibur. Sarah Elnara Rashtu.
Yeah. Say that 3 times.
13th night. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's evidently been waiting a very long time.
Yeah.
And
Merlin to return.
Right, and then he shows up and murders her.
Yeah.
So
like
that was that's rude.
Very rude, as the Flash said in Justice League.
Yeah. Yeah, so we see that there's kind of, I guess, this like mystical like interaction between these two groups from heaven and hell that have like basically exerted their influence on humans. Mm-hmm. And so we see Zatanna and John Constantine, they kind of end up in that trying to figure out what's going on because they happen upon this like giant brawl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta say, with Justice League Dark, it's a hard sell for me sometimes. Like, it depends on the story and ultimately the team members that are used. But this story by Ram V is the writer, and Zermanico, I think it is the artist.
Yeah, yeah.
First of all, I'm a sucker for like stories that have angels and demons, and also the King Arthur story.
Yeah.
So when you're now combining that in one with the Justice League Dark, I'm sold.
Yeah.
And I like the little hints at Zatanna and John Constantine's relationship. Mm-hmm. That's going to be interesting to watch play out. I don't know if I'll start shipping them, but you know, it'll be fun to watch them play out.
There's another word that I used that I learned via young people. So,
is it a word I want to know?
No, shipping.
Oh, yeah.
Shipping. Oh. My kids taught me that. I was like, shipping as in like putting something in a package and like.
Yeah, like I said, to me the only shipping I care about are Star Trek ships. You know, which Enterprise it is, or when Amazon ships a package to me, like the McFarlane Batman and Superman from Justice League, which will be arriving in June, which is way too long, but still,
that black suit Superman is gorgeous. So
yeah, and it's in my price range, which some of the statues are not.
That's important.
Yeah.
One of the things it says here at the end too, I need to point this out, is that you see Jason Blood,
yes,
aka Etrigan, at the end.
Yeah.
And although he's in his Jason Blood form, he says something ominous here. I come bearing a task of my own and a message for you all. We stand at the precipice from the edge of all reality. So I was like, this is very interesting. So
yeah, so like I said, sometimes for me, Justice League Dark can be a hard sell. Mm-hmm. But Ram V and Zermanico have definitely sold me. I'm in, at least for right now. Looking forward to this. So, Donnie, let's do our rating. So do you want to rate it all as one, or do you want to rate the main feature and then the backup, or just an overall?
Let's rate the main feature. It's hard for me to say.
It's hard because it's shorter. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like the art and the story, even though I'm not as familiar with some of these characters here.
You know what we'll do? When we see the first arc of the Justice League Dark is old, like it's concluded, We'll rate it then. How about that?
Okay, sounds good to me.
We'll double back and rate that then. All right, but for now, we're just rating the main story.
Right.
So, but for if Ram V and Zermanic happen to watch this segment of the show, we did like it and we are intrigued.
Yes,
so,
very, very much. Like I said, that scene where Merlin kills her, that was really shocking. And the image of the body in the water, just kind of surrounded by blood.
I'm like,
wow.
Sir, you're not the Merlin I remember.
Right.
He was a lot nicer.
Yeah.
What has happened to you over the years, over the millennia? Damn it. But okay. So the main story, art and writing.
Art and writing. I'm gonna go. Probably with the art, I'm going to say a 5. With the writing, I'm going to say probably 4.5.
Yeah. For me, the same thing. 4.5 for the story. It was clearly a setup, like setting the table kind of deal. But I do like the banter of the team and the debates they were having. And I also like the villain intrigues me. And I also really love the fact that Oliver and Dinah are on the team again and are in the spotlight.
Yeah.
They've been gone and you sort of ignored for too long. So I'm happy to have them back.
I also like that line of dialogue from Oliver where he said, and just to let you guys know, whenever Superman agrees with me, I usually don't care about anything else.
Yeah.
That's a fair point.
Indeed, yeah. And the arts, David Marquez, wow. He gets a 5 alone for that fight scene. So 4.5 and 5 respectively. Great start. Great books this week, or this episode. So let's hope the quality continues across the board as we continue to do these. That'd be great, because there wasn't a bad read in the bunch. I'm all in so far on Infinite Frontier, the Infinite Frontier, Donnie. I really am.
I'm liking a lot of these stories so far. So,
all right. Yeah. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks with some more books.
Most definitely.
But until then, we hope you enjoyed this. We hope you will go out to either your comic book store or your digital provider, being Comixology, and purchase some of the books we talked about and read them for yourself if you haven't already. But until next time, if you want to talk with us on social media about the comic books from DC or Marvel, in fact, because we have a Marvel show, of course.
Yes.
Where can they do that, Donnie?
You can find me on Twitter as The Emerald Enthusiast. You can also find me on YouTube as The Emerald Enthusiast, where I do various Green Lantern and comic book related reviews.
Perfect. And you can find me at Adam_LeafsFan. That's my solo Twitter. The Twitter for the podcast Vidcast Network is at MMNPDC. We also have a Facebook page, which is in the description below. Click on it, I will add you, and we can continue the conversation there. But until next time, as I said before, support the comic book industry.
Most definitely.
Physical or digital media. And remember that DC Comics is forever, from the first issue to the last. So long, everybody.
So long, everybody.